Hello there, and welcome to our product update. Had a couple of weeks or so off, partly for bank holidays, but also we've had quite a bit of work behind the scenes, so more infrastructure stuff that I can't really show you because it doesn't represent itself on the interface directly, but quite a few things that we've got to update for you this week. First, let's look at bug fixes. There was one where in the interface, radio buttons didn't adhere to the required field setting. So specifically, if the field type was a radio button, then it allowed you to save without a value. The other is the active search download, CSV download function wasn't working. So if I do a search here, you have the ability here to download these results. And that wasn't working, but that has now been fixed and the download works just fine. Those are the bug fixes. Then just an interface enhancement on email history. We've just added that we only load 20 at a time. So you've now got a load more button, and we only used load 20 at a time. That just speeds the loading up a bit because like here, 155 emails. The whole history will take a little while to load. So now you can just go load more. But generally, we access recent stuff. So that's been sorted out there. So then coming on to new features and functionality that is now available. The first is to restrict users' ability to attach anything to emails. So this is specifically when you're using manual emails, you have the option for a user to attach something here. And more so when you're using a template, you perhaps want a template that doesn't allow any attachments. We had a couple of instances where that was needed. So now what we've done is in your admin section under user management, when you go and edit a template, under the others function, you now have the ability for that user template to say yes or no for attachment. And what we do in the interface is that this whole section here for the attachment just won't be visible if the user is not allowed to attach attachments to manual emails. So that's that one. The next one is we got a few things in automation. One is with checkbox automation. So when you have a trigger action, and in that trigger action, we're going to update a field, which is a checkbox type. So I'll just go and find this field. So it's a checkbox, so I can have more than one option selected. But depending on what the automation is, do I want to, let's say welcome email is already selected. Do I then want to run to trigger welcome pack post has been done? Or sometimes you have the option where you actually want to override what was there. So let's say, for instance, I want to trigger welcome pack regardless of what other options are there. So I just want to check another box out of those three, then I just leave it like that. But if I actually want to say, well, clear what's there and just check the welcome post, then I just click overwrite and then welcome post. And now if welcome email or initial call scheduled is already selected, they'll be unselected and just the welcome pack will be completed. So obviously, depending on what your values is, that may or may not be useful in your case. Next up is on a field action. We've made an enhancement on the Humanized Dates. So if we again just go in here under our field action for the Humanized Dates, you now have the option here where you can set the sample format and you can choose, is it just 12 April 2021, Monday 12 April 2021, or does it just say what day of the week that particular date is that then comes in. So in what format do you want that written? And then, of course, if there is a time involved, then we will humanize that by making it AM, PM settings my example here, I've not picked a field, but that should be fairly clear there, that we then include the time. Another field action we've actually added is the add to date. So we've always had the option, if I just go to a trigger action quickly, that I can tell it to update a particular field. I should have a date field here. I can say next action date, I can say 3 days. But of course, that 3 days doesn't reference a particular date. It's just 3 days from when this automation runs. But if I've got a date already and I want to say 3 days after that particular date, or 3 months, or 6 weeks, then I can now use this field action, add to date. And here it then say, okay, well, what, so date created, and then I want to set the next action date based on the date created, and I can say, do it a number of days later, or weeks, or months, or years later. And then again, I can choose what format do I want that written in, because it's not necessarily just a calculated form. It could be that it's just to merge into an email, a human-friendly date. So you can choose what you've got there, but you can then what you need to have there. So what that will then do is it'll say, look at, well, what's the date in this field? Look at these settings. So let's say 3 weeks and 2 days if we want. And it'll say, okay, what's the date I've selected here? And then do that calculation and write it into here. So much more dynamic flexibility with those date calculations that you have there. And then last but not least, we have released an update for our Zapier integration version 1.1.0, which gives you 3 new actions. And these are to create a note on the contact record, create a task for a specific user in Macanta for a contact, and then also to add a note to a data object. So just to be clear with that last one, you've got notes that appear here on the contact, but then also you have notes on the actual data object. So that's what the third one is. That's just the distinction between the create a note and the create DO for data object node. So those 3 new actions available in the Zapier integration. And that brings us to a close for this week. That's all I've got for you as update this week. And I'll be back soon with more that the guys are working on. Have a great week. Cheers.